first step is financial feasibility, to look into it and say, is this even feasible from a financial standpoint? So what you have to do is understand, what are the construction costs in your area? What are the development costs in your area? What are the rents in your area? And what does your financing look like to be able to do a project like this? And is it even going to work compared to the existing inventory that you have and what you can buy and rent right now? So that's really where the comparison comes through. Now, the cool thing about new construction is it usually rents for more. It usually rents faster, rents for more, and is worth more than older existing type of property that you're just going to do the standard value add. So that's one of the advantages of it. The other advantage is you have the opportunity to create something unique in terms of a community where people like to live in newer communities. So you got to do the financial numbers first. So you just start with the income. What is the income? And then you work the numbers backwards to see if it makes sense. So if you have a certain amount of rent coming in and you know your mortgage is going to be X, that leaves X. You have to put 20 to 30% into a project like this for new construction. Depending on what it is, you might have to put 20 to 30% equity in it, down payment. So you got to look at your ROI on that. Then you work it backwards. What does it cost for land? What does it cost to develop the land? And what does it cost to build? You can find those things out by talking to local builders in your area that are building the type of housing you want to build. So if you want to build 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,200 square foot houses, look for builders that are building that and talk to them, find out what the costs are, look at new subdivisions, see what stuff's selling for. You can kind of get an idea. If they're selling for something in a new subdivision, generally the builder markup's about 20%. So if a house is selling for $400,000, new construction neighborhood, take $80,000 off of it, that's going to be your cost. Land, development, house. They have about a 20% margin. Some of the bigger companies operate a little bit less of a margin because they're doing volume, and they're really, the national home builders, they're really selling the residual products, kind of like Amazon. What we buy off Amazon is a loss leader. Their money's made in their residual products and services that they sell. So that's kind of how you can drill down numbers real quick. If you don't want to talk to a builder, just look at what new construction is selling for and back that 20% off, and that'll give you an idea of what a cost parameter is. Next step is, if you decide, okay, it looks good, looks like it's going to work, I understand relatively what the costs are going to be like. And we're talking, if you've got no experience, you've never done ground up, then you want to start looking at land. Okay. And the land that you want to look at, you need to take, number one, the zoning. Is the land zoned? Can you do what you want to do? If it's 10 acres and you want to build 50 houses, can you do it? What is the zoning? How many units per acre are allowed? And just because the zoning allows for a certain number of units per acre doesn't mean you can get it, because you have to put the roads, the streets, utilities, this, that, and the other. You've got setbacks, green area, lot coverage restrictions, access, DOT requirements, Department of Transportation, ingress, egress, all these different things that are going to dictate what you can do with that land. So you want to kind of research those things first before you make a move on a piece of land. Find out what it's zoned for, if you can do what you want to do to it. Then once you do that, what are the requirements? And you can talk to the cities and the counties and find out what these requirements are in terms of permits, utilities, traffic studies and patterns, environmental studies that need to be done, any kind of rezoning applications that need to be done potentially, and what's required there to get a property rezoned. Is it already zoned by right? Meaning as it sits, you can do what you want to do. So you want to understand all those processes and what the permits are going to look like and what's going to be required. Where are the utilities? How are you going to be able to connect to them? Is there water and sewer? Do you have to put in well and septic? Is there cable, gas, this, that, and the other? So you want to understand all those things. The city and county can generally tell you a lot about that, or direct you to the utilities departments to understand what's involved there. Then you start looking at topography. Okay, how does the land lay out? Is it buildable? Is it a cliff? Is it hilly? Is it flat? What are the soils like? Was there ever any kind of an environmental hazardous use to the property? As you move along in due diligence, you'll do environmental studies that kind of do the history of the property to find out what was on that property and make sure there's no hazardous material ever been there or ever been on the property. And you never know what you'll find on a property. So you want to walk it. You want to walk the perimeter and then kind of work your way through the property, because there could be cars, there could be something stored, it could be a body. You never know. It could be some sort of an endangered species. I had a friend that was doing a self-storage project, and they had these endangered turtles that they found. It's almost impossible to find everything, but they didn't do those field studies to find it. It stopped the project cold, delayed it like 3 or 4 months while they had to remove these turtles and relocate them. So you want to make sure that there's no environmental, natural resources, anything like that that's going to be a problem. Critical slopes, swamp, wetlands, lowlands, those types of things. For certain types of projects, depending on what you're doing, you got to do soil samples and studies as part of your due diligence, things like that. Those are the types of things that you want to look at in terms of getting the property ready to build.